mental to kind of on the coming out of the growing out of the addiction recovery space, the convergence mid 2000s with some funding that came about from SAMHSA to create recovery community organizations, and recovery of practice standards. And so yes, there certainly are the national practice guidelines. There's Faces and Voices, there's INAPS, there's all kinds of different associations of peer specialists. I want to talk, and are you going to talk specific about Virginia, or do you want me to can I do that now? Can I talk
No,
about, go ahead.
yes, please.
Okay, so how we got where we are in Virginia. Um, it's been many years ago now, but there had been a kind of groundswell and a group of us whose lived experience and what we lead with is our addiction recovery. And there was a group of folks who lead with their lived experience of mental illness recovery. And we came together. We were working independently of one another, and the two groups decided to get together, and we decided, I'll never forget saying it, that we don't know each other, we don't like each other, we don't trust each other. And if we are able to kind of stick this thing out, we will create something that will be amazing. Right. And now we have certification, registration, we have all of this across the Commonwealth of Virginia. And a couple of kind of things that set Virginia apart as we were pioneering this, two primary ones. Um, One is that we have an integrated certification, right? So we were the first in the country to integrate the certification with people with lived experience of mental illness and people with lived experience with addiction recovery. And certainly there's also the experience of co-occurring recovery. But to bring those two groups of folks together, we did it first. And, I was on the ground part of doing that. Becky Sterling was the person with the primary lived experience of mental health recovery. And it was a tough 2 years kind of pushing that through, because of, and certainly we'll have a lunch and learn 2.0 perhaps on the topic. But there are many places where we are very similar. It was in the places where our differences were what was getting us in keeping us butting heads. So that was one of the very distinct things about how Virginia has created our field of is that it's integrated. The second one was around training and kind of beginning with the end in mind, if you will. And so we decided that we were, and this one was truly with the commissioner at the time's help, but we decided to create a 72-hour training, which meant that, for those like Felissa who are now registered, it meant that the end in mind was for those who wanted to be able to bill Medicaid, they'd be able to, right? And so there's lots of recovery community organizations like Spiritworks, there's CSBs, there's treatment centers, and on and on and on. Bridget referenced them earlier. And so some of us, God willing, will not ever bill Medicaid. But for those who were going to, we wanted that to be in place already. One of the other assurances for us as we were developing this was that it is not a requirement to be certified, that certification isn't for everyone. And so to again have that range of you can be registered, you can be certified, and you can be a PRS, and there are roles for all of them. And so we were able to do that successfully as well. So I'll stop for now. Bridget, if you want to keep going, and I can jump back in, and I will be here for the whole time.
Okay.
Kristy and I chatted earlier, and I thought I was going to have to go, but here I am. So go ahead.
You're such an expert, and we're so grateful that you're here to share this knowledge. And the whole history of the field, because it's really happened so fast where it's, just kind of part of everyone's treatment, or it seems to be, very taking off a lot. But can we just take a step back for a second and talk about the evidence and why it's proven to be so effective? I have the slide here, but Jan, please tell us what you found and what evidence you use.
So absolutely. I mean, and certainly Mental Health America, the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration, SAMHSA, is and has and will continue to do a tremendous amount of research. For those of you who are familiar with the Peer Center, National Peer Center for Excellence, um, there was a lot more in place because of what Bridget described and put up earlier. Starting in the 70s, there's a lot more in place for people with the lived experience of mental health challenges. I see we're being recorded, but I'm going to say it anyway. I would suggest that in Virginia, we would not have been successful having a standalone addiction recovery peer support industry. And so, some of that was done by design to bring these two groups of folks together early on. And so, absolutely the things that peer support in general shows that people's quality of life is improved, there's improved engagement. And I think one of the pieces that's so important for us as peers, as we see, role drift and role burnout and all of the other things that we hear and talk about, is knowing kind of what our role, our secret sauce, if you will, right? What sets us apart from some of the other professions. And for those of you who have gone through the CPRS training, Tim, you most recently, as you're working on your hours, you'll see an article that I co-authored in that PRS manual that talks about, it's a role clarity matrix, and it talks about the differences between, professional coaching, peer recovery specialists, and it's a really important document to be able to go back to. And now we're going to be working on one because, as Bridget mentioned, and here's a slide that talks about all of the different organizations. And I mean, we're in the courts, we're in treatment centers, we're in emergency rooms. And so knowing what our role is, our responsibilities, and our best practices are, is really, really important, because we're often put into situations that don't quite fit. So go ahead, Bridget.
Okay. So, as Jan mentioned, there's a variety of different things that peers do, I guess, depending on, their field and everything. But basically, here's a description here. They provide face-to-face interaction, do support groups. And as Felissa mentioned earlier, there's ones that are center-based or ones that go out in the community. So more like on-call, provide emotional support and helping navigate employment and other life skills, and life needs. And then I know Kristy often drives people to treatment if they need to, so they can help provide transportation. But really, this is all about our peers, and they are the experts on what they're doing. So I want to turn it over to you all. And at first, I want to ask kind of, what was your story? What led you to want to become a peer? Kind of what was the catalyst that brought you there? And what are some of the things you do on a day-to-day basis as a peer? And we'll go ahead and start with Kristy.
Thank you so much, Bridget. So I've had I'm 59, so I've had a long journey of ups and downs, and yes, and finally I'm like, this isn't me. I'm not happy. It's just I was going nowhere, and I finally decided I was done. I was ready, and so I put myself in treatment, and I'd already stopped everything, but I needed some concrete, grounding for myself. So when I'm facing things out in the world, I had some, resources in my tool belt per se. Um, So I started volunteering just because I knew I needed to get up and get out, right? That's key factor. Volunteer, get out there. Don't like I told my kids when they went to college, don't sit in your room. Go to the common areas to do your homework. Go volunteer. Put yourself around people, good people. And you will thrive. And it's magic. So I started volunteering. My sponsor told me about Swarton Recovery Center, and I went there the very next day and introduced myself. And I said, I'll do anything, whatever. Clean toilets, doesn't matter. And I kept showing up the next day, the next day, the next day. And then I knew all of a sudden I was going into the jail with the jail program and help navigating the women in there. Um, and it's important being a peer doing that because I've walked the walk and there's a bond of trust, and they know that I'm not just saying things out of a book, that I know what I'm talking about. And so there's a bond and a trust, and they open up to peers more than they do. So a clinical practitioner. Um, and I felt that's my calling. I came through the other end of a lot of things, and I want to help other people do the same and find their passions, bring it back their core beliefs, because there's always in there somewhere. Um, and I help them wherever they're at. That's where I meet them. If they would do Buddhist, way, I refuge recovery. I research whatever they want to do because it's holistic. There's no set path of recovery, and I meet them where they're at, what they're comfortable. And if they're not ready, they're not ready. And I don't judge. I'm always happy, and I'll send them like a little meme or little emoji every now and then. And plain and simple lets them know that hi, but it's not pressure. So many people, maybe a year later, months later, 2 years later, they'll contact me again when they're ready. And it's a beautiful thing that I'm approachable,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah,
And I just walk with them and help them set goals. Just there's so many little factors, because we don't know where to begin when we first want to take control of our lives back, um, and get on the right path and set things. We went there, but we've got to do here, here, here first. And it can be frustrating, if it doesn't happen like that. And so I'll walk with them and do that and get them out, get them comfortable with socializing again, healthy ways. And yeah, and just I just love it. I love helping people and watching them blossom.
that's
Oh,
awesome.
I'm also a waitress bartender, and I call that my barstool ministry because the restaurant industry is riddled with everything you can imagine. And so I've helped a lot of coworkers. They'll come up to me confidentially, and I've helped them, and nobody knows because that's not nobody else's business. It's not my business to tell,
Mhm.
and that's why they approach me, and yeah, I love it.
It's
Yeah,
awesome.
thank
Yeah,
you.
Christy is such a helpful person, so approachable. We often give out Christy's information, to our community partners. Like if you know someone who's ever looking for a peer, Christy is a great one to contact. Like I said, because she's willing to meet them where they are, transport them, kind of navigate them to all the different types of programs and opportunities and volunteer activities. So, great friend to the Mental Health Association. Thank you so much. Let's go on to Felissa. Felissa, do you want to talk about a little bit about what you do on a day-to-day basis in Encompass and kind of what your journey was like?
Absolutely. Again, my name is Felissa, and I started out helping my mother. I wanted to just mention that because it was important that I my education was in editing and writing, And so that was what I've done for most of my adult career. And then I found myself helping myself to the medications I was given a little bit too frequently, and using them not recreation. Well, I guess recreationally. Yeah, let's go ahead and call a spade a spade. And then my mother decided one day to come up to me and tell me, "You need help. You need help." And so I found myself. She gave me this deal. She said, "If I take you to AA, then you can go. We can go to Walmart and get whatever you want." And so what we did was, I thought I was fooling her. I thought I had found a sweet deal. She said she would take me to this AA meeting on Monday nights in Warrenton. And then after that, we'd go to Walmart and I got myself a case of beer. And that's how I worked the system, worked my mother. And it turned out that in AA, after several weeks and even a month or so of hearing what they had to offer, I saw that they were loving each other. They were friendly. Their hugs were genuine. It was a love that was real, and I hadn't seen that anywhere previously. Not that my eyes were open to see it, I guess, but my eyes were opening. And so I said, if I could have what they have, I'll do what they do. I'll decide to put the bottle down. Decide to put the pill vials down. And I stopped. And I credit AA with saving my life. But what gives me my life is my connection to my higher power. And what gives me my drive to move on a daily basis is that I came to an AA meeting and someone suggested, you know what, you'd be a great peer. It's like, what's a peer? And I came to the C Center, and C stands for Support, Encourage, Empower, SEE. I came to the C Center, and the person who directed it, Corey Will, said, "You'll make a great peer. Let's try it." And I said, "I have no idea what you're doing, talking about." And he led me through the system. He led me through the training. He gave me an opportunity, and he said, "You would make a wonderful example for other people." And just like Kristy mentioned, I found my life in helping other people. I found some degree of purpose and strength and joy in encouraging and empowering other people. So now I work at the C as a peer recovery specialist. That's the title that we use instead of peer support. And I teach several groups on anxiety. We have a group that's called When Anxiety Hits. I teach a group called MORE, MORE, stands for My Ongoing Recovery Experience. And these are both evidence-based courses. And when I say, and Jane will mention what evidence-based means, but and I also teach a group on self-care, and I'm developing groups as I go along that help some of the people who come to the center. It's both a drop-in recovery service and in a staff, and we go out into the community. That's why we have so many peers here. We serve both purposes. And I found that helping others has been the key to helping myself, which is what I know that AA taught me. But what I've learned for myself is that helping others helps me. And so it's a reciprocal type of environment. So as an AA, I'll say thank you for letting me share.
Thank you so much for sharing. That's really inspiring. And, really, I think the opportunity for people that, have gone through things, who've gone through tough things, just having new opportunities and a way to use their experience, just as you said so well, to help others is so important and so valuable. So I also want to hear from Tim. Do you want to talk a little bit more about your journey and how you're being a peer now?
Okay, hi. Yeah, happy to do that. So I have something in common with really everybody who struggles with substance use and most people that struggle with mental illness, which is childhood trauma or just trauma in general. In my case, what are known as adverse childhood experiences disrupted my emotional development quite considerably, which led to uh, what's known as self-medicating, which was a term that I rejected for most of my life. Um, and I experienced symptoms that matched with, like I said, more than one mental illness for most of my life. And I, to some extent, managed those symptoms with mood altering substances, mostly alcohol. And that eventually or immediately, more accurately, probably, led to, what is commonly known as addiction. And that sort of created at that point a co-occurring disease, which I struggled with for 30 years of my life, from some early adolescence until last year. The recovery from the symptoms of mental illness started a bit earlier, thankfully, and I think led to me reaching a point where I was able to begin recovering from addiction and substance misuse. And really, for me, that happened. It's kind of hard to explain how that happened. I mean, in Alcoholics Anonymous, which is the program that I participate in and am working, we call it hitting bottom. Hitting bottom is kind of a strange thing because many of us can't recognize the bottom because we spend so much time living in it. And that was certainly the case for me. But looking back on it, I can see that the beginning of this stage of my recovery from alcohol misuse, particularly, was a different thing, and that was my real bottom. So what brought me out of that was honestly, the love that I had for my friends and family, which wasn't a new thing, but I made a choice for a reason that I still can't fully explain to act on that love and behave as if I really love them rather than not. And at the time, I wasn't very good at doing that. So, when I went first to Alcoholics Anonymous as an adult, I was there really not for myself, but for others, just kind of hoping something would change. And really immediately it did. I mean, I went from being there for other people to being there for the group to being there for all of those people and myself. And uh, the program, obviously, there's 12 steps. And I'm working those. But for me, it's very simple. Some people simplify it to 5 fundamentals, other people to 3, which for me is don't drink, go to meetings, and help other people. And much like others have shared before me, like that was fundamental to my own recovery. But what's the crucial element in that is that I don't do it for myself. If I'm doing it for myself, it doesn't really help me, because if I'm thinking about myself, that keeps me in a kind of selfish mind state that kept me in the addictive behaviors that I struggled with before. So just thinking about others selflessly is a crucial part of the program for me, and that keeps me sober and keeps me healthy, thankfully, and led to me coming back to America from abroad, where I've been living for 15 years. And obviously, there's a crisis in this country: mental health and substance use, poverty, among other things, and the more time you spend in these meetings here, the more one comes into contact with people in crisis. And, through that, I, found out about avenues to do the same kind of help that everybody does within the program, but in a more professional way. And, through helping people in the program, I met somebody who's actually in this webinar today, Scott, and he and I spoke about the work that he does, which led me to looking into trainings in another state, and then deciding to do it here in Virginia at the McShin Foundation, which was an amazing experience and really humbling and impressive course. And I found that it aligned really well with my values, and I think the principles of the peer recovery program are they were surprising to me, having been through some treatment as a young man in America. Like I found that it had evolved to a point where I could really get behind it. And also being down there, you're reminded every day in every conversation you have with all of the participants in a place like the McShin Foundation exactly why we want to do this. And so, I just find that the more I learn about this program and the more I participate in it, the more I believe in it and the more I want to get involved. So that's
Awesome.
it. Thanks.
Thank you. So we're going to talk a little bit more about, what tools the peers use when they're working with somebody. I asked Kristy, and she gave me these wonderful examples. I know she has books as well, and I think Tim, gave some gave some thoughts on. So I just want to thank you all again for sharing the resources. I thought this page from Spiritworks was really kind of sums it all up, that there are different aspects of wellness, and you can break them down into small pieces and not tackle them all at once, because I think, as some of you mentioned, it's overwhelming and hard to navigate all the wellness aspects. So thought this was a great image. And this is again from Spiritworks. Jan, do you want to talk a little bit more about this?
Sure. So, gosh, when I started Spiritworks 19 years ago, this is kind of has always been our bread and butter. Prior to that time, I continue to be, I work with Stephen Covey and Franklin Planner and Franklin Institute, and am a Covey facilitator, and essentially was able to take the bests of habits 1 through 4 and create the turning a new leaf. Those being kind of the internal things that we do, and then habits 4 through 7, excuse me, are manifested, if you will, in the goals section. What's wonderful about the leaf is that those dimensions are also Samsa's dimensions of health and wellness, right? So if you look at the 8 dimensions of health, that coincides with what it is that we use. And so again, really helpful, and very interactive. I mean, and through the years, it's been a compass, it's been a wheel, it's been a, and my staff is like, well, maybe it needs to be something that doesn't look like, because many people still refer to it as a wheel because that's what they, used for like 10 years. And so it may be updated and given a facelift. But we offer goals groups that are based on this workbook. We have a process through which we take people to help them, determine what their goals are. Because, again, some of what I've learned through the years being a change manager primarily is that, we can really not work on more than two or three things at a time, right? We think that we're masterful at doing all kinds of other things. And I often use the image of an air traffic controller, right? And there may be 50 airplanes, flying around the sky and ready to come and be landed at any major airport, but they only focus on two or three of them. If they tried to focus on all 50, they would crash all of the airplanes in the sky. And so they have a process by which they prioritize which planes there are. They put them in the queue, they bring one down, they land it, they move it. So we use a very similar process as we come up with our goals, prioritize our goals, and then frankly meet our goals. And so yeah, we've been using something along these lines for almost 20 years now.
This is great. I love the concept of growth, and you have to start from somewhere, and growth takes time. You just tackle one thing at a time, and it breaking things down is really important. When you're making life changes and can't do it all at once. And this is probably helpful for the peer support specialists as well, because they might be working with several people, and how breaking, having different goals for different weeks. And I know you teach a lot of classes, so in the classes people are all on the same page, but people in recovery might be at different stages. And so I thought that was really helpful. Another thing I thought was helpful were these next kind of prompts. Say someone's overall fear or overall obstacle is that they feel that they take too many naps during the day. And a lot of people could say, don't sleep so much, like do something. But that idea of the practical steps of getting there are not so clear, but this really breaks it down. So I like these that Kristy shared, and they are from, I will share them after the meeting. I'm not sure exactly where they're from, but Kristy, do you want to talk more about these?
Yes, from Pat Deegan and their personal medicine cards. And so I'm always doing courses and webinars just constantly, just because I love learning and seeing what's out there. So what the personal medicine cards are is like, all right, so like replace my nap with an activity. So instead of just saying, do that, they're specific. It's like go outside for a walk, or clean my kitchen, or play a video game, or call or text a friend, or whatever. It's specific, because if it's like, oh, replace it with activity, I don't know what to do. So you make it up yourself, and it's your own personal medicine card and things that you choose. And that way you're comfortable doing them. And so it's like take a bath. No, just not take a bath. All right, add Epsom salts, add bath salts, light some candles, darken the room, play some soft music. It gets it specific so that you can relax. And it's tailored for each individual because they put down what they're comfortable with themselves. And I just love these. And troublesome beliefs. Find others who share my beliefs. Um, and that's everywhere. That's what we do. And we at one time or another, we've walked that walk, and we can walk beside our peers as they're going through their recovery journey. And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so let's talk more about that. Do you have any success stories and keep it, pretty general. I don't want you to mention any specifics, but, what are some things that you found to have really worked? And I'm going to ask all three of our support specialists, but let's start with Kristy, since you're already talking.
Okay, so a lot of families or friends of friends or siblings, mothers, fathers, or almost contact me. It's like word of mouth. And so I work with families a lot and they'll talk about their loved one that they're concerned about. And then so I'm like, well, give that person my number because it has to come from them. And I I have information for the family as well. And so the person can reach out to me and then I say, hey, can I come meet you for coffee or sit at the park or something so that I can introduce myself and we can just chit chat. That's it. No pressure. And so this one gentleman, the family had contacted me. And so I went out to, I don't know where it was, Royal or somewhere. Um, he said he reached out, said yeah. So I went out there. Um, and I think he wanted to quit, but he just didn't know how. And so we met and we got along, and he trusted me, and that was that. No pressure. I went home, and then he called me up again a couple days later, say, "Hey, I'm ready to go to detox and then rehab." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll come get you." So his drug of choice was opioids. And so on the way to detox, he started going through withdrawals and was like, oh, just stop somewhere so I can get well, please, please, because you feel like you're dying, but you're not. But and so then he had me take him to his parents' house. It's okay, that's fine, because I'm not gonna make them do anything they don't want to do. Right. And so I went to the parents and he stayed there and then they called me back and then we drove and the dad drove behind me and he was still like trying to like get out of the car or whatever. But finally got him there and I sat with him in the hospital for the waiting room. And then they took him back for vitals and fluids and waiting to get checked into the detox area. And I sat with him the whole way. Just, we don't have to speak. We can just sit and it's comforting to know somebody's there on your side. And I told everybody that came in, the doctors, nurses, whatever, what are you doing here? I'm his peer advocate. Oh, okay. And so then once they came over and took them to the detox center, then I left and of course I contacted the parents to let them know that where he was and everything. And then after that, Jan and I got him into a treatment center. We got him scholarships and he's been thriving ever since. And he's just healthy. He's got muscle tone now. Before he was like really skinny. Uh-huh. Relationship with his child and his wife. Relationships are the best. I mean, and so healing has begun, and they're thriving, and he's got a job that he has kept for quite a while now, and it's just I just love. I don't stalk, but I do creep on the Facebook or whatever. Um, just like, oh, I wonder how so and so is doing, and then I'll just look and like, wow. And I don't mention anything or do anything, but it's just for me. I'm like, yeah, way to go, for him or whoever I'm looking for. It's just because it's personal now. We're, and all around families, the person in recovery and their friends. It's just getting them to be comfortable in their own skin again. And it's important. And this is very important. This community resource guide that Path Foundation puts out for Fauquier County. I keep these in my car. Some at home. I've given some to people at work. I go to Celebrate Recovery as well as AA. Because I just love the family. Um, and I take stacks there as well. And Hope Heals, a community free store, wonderful. They have a stack as well over there, and it's just it gives you all the resources you need for clothes, food, shelter, help with utilities, everything. So and therapy. It's all right here. Yeah, so
I agree.
it's
That's a
very
wonderful
good.
resource. We use it really often, a lot of people call it mental health association, and what people are looking for is basic life needs, in addition to the mental and emotional support. And so I agree that that resource is so helpful. And it's also somebody to guide them, to resources, like having a warm handoff and somebody who knows that this is a resource that will really help them, and not just giving them a number, but introducing them to somebody there. That's a really important role to peer, I think, as well. So let me turn it over to Felissa. Felissa, what are some things that, or some people that you've helped there at the Encompass Community Supports?
At Encompass, we have a broad range of services that are available. We do have an actual, not a detox center, but a recovery center. Some of you might be familiar with it. It's Boxwood here in Culpeper. One of my favorite stories is that a woman came in and said, I just need some help. Please help me. I'm ready to stop. And I helped her to, I know we're running short on time, so I'll try and keep this brief. But she did not have a driver's license. She wanted to get a job doing, working with auto mechanics. And that I didn't have an experience with that, but I certainly encouraged her to do what she needed to do. I helped her to find a local um, academy. And long story short, after she stopped using, after I helped her to get to a place to help her stop using, she went to the academy and she was able to find a job at uh, at a place related to auto mechanics. And my favorite part of the story is that I was able to assist her get a driver's license, stop using, get in a field that she liked to do. But she came by the center recently, about 2 months ago, and said, I just wanted to come by and say thank you. Just wanted to come by because your assistance helped me to help myself change my life. And I really appreciate that. And one of my most important lessons, however, is that I helped another gentleman do something quite similar. However, he decided to go back out using again. And it's important that I let him be where he is. It's important that I support, encourage, and empower him where he is, but not that I attach myself to his success or his failure. Um, a person's life is there, or what can be perceived to be a failure. Maybe it's deemed a relapse or a setback, but I can't attach my feelings to his or her success in their life. That is theirs and theirs alone. And so that's one lesson that I carry with me all the time. Um, that a person's life is their own. I can just help encourage them, but their life does not belong to me. It belongs to them and their higher power and their connection with God.
Absolutely, Felissa. I
Understand it can feel
agree.
like a lot of
And it was so hard for me at first, when I first started helping people. When they would go back out, I'm like, did I not do enough? Did I not say enough? Did I, what, or did I say too much? But no, they just weren't ready. And it took a long time to not think it was me. It's just let them go and just let them know that they're loved. you know, let them know
Exactly.
that every now and then that you're still there
Right.
without being intrusive. But yeah, yeah, I agree with that.
And actually, let's talk about the stages of of recovery. I was talking with Tim a few days ago, and he went through the, really explained it all really well. Tim, do you want to talk about there's different stages and how it's not always in a, moving in one direction? Or
Sure. I mean, this was, well, I mean, there were a lot of important moments in the training for me, but this was a crucial one because it helped me understand my own experiences and also, experiences of loved ones that I'd seen struggle with addiction throughout many years. And, you know, the notion, well, primarily that recovery is non-linear, just as the other people were just talking about, there are reoccurrences and, the disease can be activated for various reasons. And it doesn't necessarily go in a straight line all the time, from the bottom upwards. But the thing that was crucial to me to understand about these stages was the stage of pre-contemplation. Like one thing that a lot of people who have friends or family or themselves that struggle with mental illness or substance use is they don't understand how that person can't see their way out of it and why they don't accept help and why they don't accept suggestions or why they don't appear to be trying to improve their lives. And having that framed as a stage of pre-contemplation, where that stage is defined by that very inability, was really useful to me. And then some people stay that in that stage for their entire lives, unfortunately, but others are fortunate enough to move on by their own sort of volition and with support of others to contemplation, where they're willing to accept suggestions and at least entertain the idea that there may be another way of life. And then, with support that can lead them into preparing for a new way of life, taking action to change the behaviors that are associated with their illness. And then, maintenance is obviously, where they move into just living that new way of life in a sustained and sort of manageable way, I suppose.
awesome. So what are some of the best practices and the ethical guidelines and things like that you guys follow that would be helpful to share with people that might be want to have a family member, but they want to know that they're in good hands? What are some of the best practices that you all use, and for your own self-care as well?
Yeah. So own self-care, that's first and foremost. Um, we have to have a self-care plan always, because helping other people, um, we're empathetic and we feel it, and it can drain us a little bit of our, we'll forget about us and work on somebody else easily. And so we need to constantly work on ourselves. Um, for me, I love music and reggae, ska, punk, hip hop, rock all fused together. And I'm part of a sober squad in the music community. And so, like at festivals and concerts, there's like group pages, and it's a set of where I'm going to be during the concerts. If somebody is trying to abstain or quit or whatever they want, if they feel triggered or uneasy or just out of sorts, they know where I am and they come and will dance. And so they'll be able to enjoy themselves again sober and remember everything and have a whole lot more money in their pocket and make really good friends. Um, the community, it just seems like more people are getting sober every day. And a lot of the artists are sober or Cali sober. But and their songs reflect that, being sober and the trials and tribulations that they've gone through with mental health and substance use disorder, because it's basically all co-occurring, because um, we do substances for a reason sometimes, to not think about things, to mask things, to forget. Um, and so we need to deal with both. And so a lot of the messages in these songs, with a lot of the artists now are sober, are relatable. And I think I've sent you some, Bridget, recently. It's beautiful, beautiful community. And that's for my mental health. And also it's a way I can see my daughter too, because she will fly from Boston to wherever the music festival is, and we get to spend time together. They like
Awesome.
me now. They always love me, but
Yeah.
One thing that I find I have to repeat to myself often is that my recovery comes first, so that everything I love in life doesn't have to become last. And that's something that I repeat to those that I'm helping, and those around me. Because if my recovery doesn't come first, then I can't help anyone else. I can't help pull you up the ladder, or across the field, or whatever your destination is. I can't help you with that if I'm not of good health and of sound mind as well. So I have to be in a good place. And one of the best practices that I use is just to understand that um, life is a joy. I don't know if you're using it in that particular way when you say best practices, um, but just to come to the understanding that life is absolutely beautiful, and it's to be lived for me as a sober person. I found a lot of joy and understanding and uh, commitment. And I'll use the phrase again, to my higher power. That's been my journey. Commitment to my higher power, which has encouraged me to uh, live my walk my walk in such a way that I'm proud and that my higher power is proud. That's what encourages me.
Yeah, those mottos, those life mottos and guiding principles are so important for keeping us doing what we're doing and knowing that we're doing the right thing, because we feel strongly. But I know that you all also take very seriously confidentiality, maintaining boundaries, and then there's other ethical things. And like I mentioned earlier, there's a whole um, guidelines and standards that
Oh, yes. Recently, there stronger ethics have come out, and now, did you know that peer recovery specialists, out of all the I'm sorry, it's escaping me, but we have to have 6 continuing education units of ethics, more than most people, more than most other professions have to have, because the lines get so blurred. I'm helping you help yourself. And what is this feeling between us? Are we friends, or are we colleagues? What, I mean, not colleagues. Are we working together? It becomes blurred, and so those ethics are there to protect both parties. Um, so I have found that there are times when I've helped people who are both male and female, and sometimes those lines can become a little fuzzy. I see that Jan, oh, she'll be teaching some ethics training in the near future. Oh, that'll be great. Um,
Yeah, because we have to recertify every 2 years.
Years.
And we have to have so many continuing education credit hours. And for every 2 years, we have to, in different categories, we have to have 6 hours of ethics for a recertification every 2 years. We have to continue taking that. Yeah. It's very important.
Yeah, it's great that I know it's an ongoing field, and we're learning new things about mental health and addiction every day. So it's great that you guys keep up with it and are the experts and inform the rest of us. So just starting to learn. Um, well, it is 1 o'clock, and I have so appreciated learning your stories. And I think we could probably talk all day about life experiences and how we use those to help others and encourage others and inspire others. And definitely done that today. So I want to thank you all for being here and sharing your story and doing what you do every day in the community to help others. And here's some contacts for our organizations and our peers. The Sea Recovery Center, like we mentioned, is located in Culpeper. Their hours are pretty extensive. They're not 24 hours, but I think they close at 10.
8 a.m. to 10 p.m.
And like we talked about, it's a place for people in recovery or thinking about recovery to drop in and talk to other people that are going through it and get some support and some direction. And classes all the time, and great resource, great people, etc. Then Spiritworks.
Please do contact me. I'll be happy to lead you in the right direction if you have any questions.
Yeah, and people even interested in just seeing the facility are welcome to take a tour as well.
Mm-hmm.
Spiritworks is here in town. Kristy, her contact information is there, and as Jan mentioned, they have different classes and events going on for people to participate in. And then Tim Bourdon, he actually, I think I need to correct his email address, which I will send to you all in resources after the webinar. He's still earning his hours, I guess. And so reach out to him if you feel you want to talk to him more about his experience or what kind of support he can provide. And I also want to mention the Virginia Peer Specialist Network, where you can find peers in your area, say if you don't live in Wilmington. Let me just check the chat. Okay, good. Tim, thank you for providing your email address. Part 2 would be a great idea. Thanks, Christine. Dan, I think we should chat on how we can make that happen, and not a lot,
Too. Well, and as you were talking too, I think it'd be cool. I do a lot of work in other areas to have a series, like maybe there's a monthly, and people don't need to feel obligated just based on the topics that we might offer. I mean, language is a primary one. Recovery 101 is another one that I teach and I find to be really important. Using our lived experience in ways that are really meaningful, because sometimes we can over rely on that. And then I'm sure others have topics and areas of interest. So yeah, let's circle back, Bridget.
That sounds great. And it's a great great segue into our closing slide. We do have time for Q&A if anyone has any questions, but please take the survey before you log off and use that opportunity to suggest future topics of what you might be interested in. And we'll definitely move forward with that and plan another topic that you're interested in. Our next Lunch and Learn for July is going to be on gambling and gaming prevention. And that's going to be delivered by the Department of Behavioral Health and Human Services. Always get that a little bit wrong, but they are the experts on prevention. And with all kids home during the summer, doing a lot of gaming, we're going to kind of talk about when, just a habit, running out of words right now, when a hobby can become something more concerning. So tune in for that if you can, and to register is on our website. Again, thank you all for being here. Thanks for spending your lunch hour with us, and I hope to see you all soon at another webinar, and reach out if we can do anything in the meantime.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having
Thank you.
us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.